There's been some news that has been um, going all over the place. It has actually now made international news because even the Americans are talking about it. And that is Canada's state broadcaster, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Um, its decision to whitewash, erase, bleach bit Donald Trump out of their showing of Home Alone on the CBC television networks. Now, what people are saying is that during the airing of Home Alone 2 on the CBC, people noticed that Donald Trump's cameo appearance was deleted. Now, for those of you who don't know or who haven't watched Home Alone 2, um, Donald Trump back in the 90s, when he was a businessman, made a cameo appearance, a very short appearance, and CBC has decided to delete it. They've actually confirmed the fact that they deleted it now because when Donald Trump Jr., who is Donald Trump's eldest son, spoke out against it, they defended it. That's what the CBC decided they're going to do. And on the contrary of the country standing next to them, as they thought they would, I mean, the CBC thought that people would either think it's not a big deal or they would rally around them. Many people, even people who don't necessarily like Trump, find this to be ridiculous and childish. I mean, imagine a grown adults who are supposed to be sensibly minded, doing something so ridiculous like this. I mean, Donald Trump makes one of the shortest appearances. It's like for somebody to be so annoyed at that, especially somebody working for a government organization, which a lot of our tax dollars goes to, is very ridiculous. Now, what I want to know is how much money did it take for them to delete his appearance? I mean, it takes money this stuff takes money. They have to re-edit the movie. They have to make sure that it doesn't show up. And to re-edit the movie, they need special equipment, which costs money. And they need the time, the manpower to do it. I mean, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of money to delete an image from a movie. It's like you're recreating the whole entire movie. And you have to make sure there's no complications and all that stuff. I mean, I work in videos and computers and, electronics and all this stuff. I know about all this stuff. And it takes time and it takes money. And I want to know how much of our tax dollars went to this. And what I also want to know is, when are the people, the creators at Home Alone, going to sue CBC? When are they going to do it? They need to sue the living daylights out of this company for tampering with their video. That's tampering with art. It's like if the Mona Lisa was hanging in the Louvre in Paris, and you delete her eyes or her hair or her underwear or whatever you delete. You're tampering with art, and they can sue for that. Now, the CBC has been doing things like this for ever since Trump went into politics. I covered a story where the CBC actually disguised themselves as racists and started shouting, "White power, make America great again," just to see who would react and who wouldn't react. I mean, that's what they spent their money doing. Millions and millions of dollars to hire actors, to get the Trump props, and all that stuff to do that. And that was during the election time. They were saying, "White power, make America." I mean, they're literally trying to make Trump supporters out to be something they're not. I mean, I'm not saying that all Trump supporters are clean. They're not. But for you to come out there with a Trump shirt, a Trump sign and a Trump hat yelling out white power, make America great again, when you've never heard anybody in public say anything like that. I mean, I don't know, maybe some redneck out there in Mississippi may have said that out there in the bushes or something, but nobody's ever seen. I mean, you've never heard that at a Trump rally. You've never heard Trump say anything like that. And you do that, and you're supposed to be a serious channel? Serious enough for us to give tax dollars to? They also made they made a music video in which they were talking about brown power, predicting that in 2030, mixed race people, not black folk, not white folk, nobody, mixed race people would be the majority and celebrating, which, I mean, if you want to celebrate that, I'm all for celebrating, whoever wants to marry and have children, and that's fine. But, to spend our tax dollars making such a video, I mean, this is no longer a serious news company. So here's what I'm advocating for. I know you can't ask the NDP to do this because they support CBC. NDP they used to be a good party. They're no longer good anymore. Of course, the Liberals, they're no good. They've never been good. They haven't been good for a long, long time. I think the last great Liberal was Wilfrid Laurier. But here's what I'm advocating for. Andrew Scheer has resigned as Conservative leader. He will resign when a new leader is chosen, which means there's going to be a new Conservative leadership election. Now, the reason I say Conservative, because I'm not a Conservative, I'm an independent. But you're more likely going to find a Conservative speak out against CBC than any other party out there. And I don't count PPC because PPC is never going to win anything. PPC is not going to win. It never was going to win, and it never will win. And Maxime Bernier is a fraud, so we won't even count him. That party is probably going to be dead in the next month or so, if it's not dead already. But anyway, that's what you're going to most likely find. You're going to find them in the Conservatives, somebody speaking out the CBC. Andrew Scheer said he was going to actually defund CBC. Maxime Bernier, when he was in the leadership race, said he was going to defund it. Kelly Lee said she was going to defund it. I am saying that I will not endorse any Conservative leader who does not come out publicly against the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation and publicly comes out and says they are going to privatize it and defund it. That's what it needs. Stop giving to our tax dollars to this company. Any leader who doesn't come out against CBC isn't going to get my endorsement. I don't care what else you want to talk about. I don't care if you talk about immigration. I don't care if you talk about abortion. I don't care if you talk about taxes. I don't care whatever you want to talk about. If you don't come out publicly in support of defunding the CBC and making it a private company to survive on its own, I ain't going to endorse you. You have to come out publicly saying that. Publicly. And I'm advocating all citizens of Arana Nation to do the same thing. This has become ridiculous. This is no longer, people in England will attack. It seems like every Commonwealth country or former British colony has one state broadcast network. We have CBC, Canada, UK has BBC, Australia has ABC, even Zimbabwe has ZBC, and South Africa has SABC. And they're all globalist shows. All of them. They're all globalists for some reason. Even in South Africa, they have a state broadcaster. Even Uganda has UBC. I mean, so what I'm saying, but none of them are as bad as CBC. Now, I don't know too much about the other ones, but none of them are as bad as CBC. CBC is the worst, and it's not just because they're globalists. I've come to accept that the media is dead. But the thing is that when you have a company which is so filled with anger against somebody in politics, when they need to be neutral, especially if they're a state broadcaster, they have to. We have the right to make sure that they're neutral, but they take the time to whitewash Donald Trump from a movie, a stupid movie. They're going to whitewash him. Get rid of him, his little scene. I mean, they're going to make music videos about brown power. They're going to set up plays and do experiments where they find old white folk, dress them up in Trump shirts, and tell them to shout white power, make America great again. When they have the audacity to do all this stuff, they don't deserve public funds anymore. No more. They need to be a private company, and they need to make it on their own. They need to make it on their own. If they're going to do that kind of stuff, they need to make it on their own. I mean, even BBC doesn't do things like this. I mean, none of them, as far as I know. Maybe they are doing it, but I haven't heard of it. I mean, I don't even hear of private news organizations doing things like this. So CBC needs to be defunded, and CBC needs to be privatized. And no conservative in the leadership race will get my endorsement unless they come out publicly, in support of defunding CBC and sending it on its way to being a private organization. And we don't give one penny to CBC, and not just CBC, to any news organization. News organizations need to make it on their own. Justin the tacky-headed, tar-faced, swift-foot, two-faced Mac Daddy Trudeau gave millions of our tax dollars to news organizations in print and in television media to ensure that they'd be on his side. And lo and behold, a lot of the Toronto newspapers ended up not being on his side anyway. They took the money. National Post, Toronto, they all took the money, and they said, we're still not going to support you. Toronto Star supported. I think Toronto Star and Globe and Mail were the only Toronto newspapers that supported Justin the tacky-headed, tar-faced, swift-foot, two-faced Mac Daddy Trudeau in the last election. But all other Toronto print media was against him. So that's what I'm saying. CBC needs to be defunded. It has to be defunded. Has to be completely defunded. No conservative candidate should get your vote. And I mean this. If any of them come to your door, if any of them make a phone call to you, if any of them send you an email, immediately ask them what is their take on defunding CBC. You immediately ask that. Don't listen. Conservatives have this bad habit in this country of trying to look for a savior. I'm now hearing people talk about Pierre Poilievre. I don't know who he is. I don't know if he's good or bad. I'm not going to endorse him unless he says he's going to defund CBC. I'm not just going to jump to somebody like you all did with Scheer and then you end up regretting it. That's how you some of you guys can be dumb sometimes. You all have to do research first. Who's Pierre Poilievre? I don't know him. I may endorse him, but I don't know him. I have to hear what he says in the debates. I have to hear what his record is. I want to know if he was ever a globalist once. I want to know what his past was. I'm not just going to jump to somebody. Yeah, you dummies, you jumped to Scheer. It's just going to be Scheer. And look at y'all are upset now. So now I'm going to just jump to Pierre Poilievre. I'm just going to jump to him. It's just Pierre Poilievre. It's going to jump to Pierre Poilievre now. And we don't know a damn thing about him. Or what he's said in the campaign. He hasn't even announced he's going to run yet. Y'all just going to jump to him. Y'all are dumb sometimes. Don't give these politicians the satisfaction of knowing that you are their slave or that you are a sycophant. These people are supposed to serve you, not the other way around. And then you go after people who criticize your boy. You go after people who criticize Bernier or Scheer or Poilievre or Rona Ambrose. You dummies! You need to make sure that you're holding these people accountable. And don't just jump to someone automatically. You scrutinize them. Ask them questions. So if any politician comes up to you in the next few months and years, you ask them, what is your position on defunding CBC? And see what they say. If they say they're going to defund it, support them. So that's what the commander-in-chief says, that CBC needs to be defunded. If they say no, we won't defund it, or we don't have an opinion, you scratch them off your list, and this is the Arana Nation.